As some of you may already know, I have the privilege of speaking in public schools through a program called Hello, Mr. Brown and the Choose Well program. So I'm a motivational speaker, I get to do assemblies, and I get to do classroom visits, speak to kids one-on-one, do some mentoring. And I love all of them, but I really like doing the small group, speaking to a small group of students about choices and just having dialogue with them. And often I end up speaking with a group of boys. And with those boys, we talk about self-control, making better choices, right? And I remember saying this to them, and it was based on our verse today from Proverbs chapter 25. It says, I say this, and I'll tell you what the verse is in a moment. I tell them this: if you don't control yourself, someone will have to control you for you. Again, if you don't control yourself, someone will have to control you for you. And I hope they really get that, because it all comes down to self-control, a choice of being self-controlled. And that's exactly what our verse talks about today in our 25th day of our series, Get Wisdom. Hello, everybody. Mr. Brown here with Proclaim Ministries, and this is our series, Get Wisdom. And I want to, before we start, send a shout out or a thank you to all the people helping get this series done. I'm going to say a shout out to Brianna. Brianna's editing all these videos, which is amazing to me because that means I don't have to do that part. I can focus on just the teaching part and doing the video themselves. Also, Amy is actually transcribing, or she's actually making summaries and intros to all the videos. So the stuff you see on Instagram, the little quotes, she does that. The summary you see in the podcast or on the website, they do that. And that is so much a blessing to me. I've always loved to do this, and I want to do more and more, but we need more people. We need a team to do this. All you see is me, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And if you're interested in helping out, because I got a bunch more series I want to do on the gospel, on the basis of Christianity, a whole bunch more I want to do, because I love this part of it, but I don't like the whole writing part. But other people are gifted. So I thank God for those two, Brianna and Amy. Thank you for your hard work. Oh, and by the way, some of the earlier transcripts and descriptions she didn't do. She came in about halfway through. Now she's going back and correcting all my mistakes. Thank you so much, Amy. And Bree, thanks so much for making me look good on video. I really appreciate that. You make me look skinnier. I know you'd be putting that skinny thing on, make me look thinner. Thank you so much, Bree. I really appreciate that. Anyway, guys, if you're interested in volunteering, just contact us at proclaimministry.com. Just send me an email, send me a voicemail. I would love to get more volunteers so we can do more. So that's for that. Now, let's jump into our verse for today, which is Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28, which says this: a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Proverbs chapter 25, 28. Again, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28. As I mentioned before, I use this kind of concept when I'm talking to a group of boys and girls, for that matter, when it comes to self-control. A lot of our kids today are like me, very impulsive. Like, we just think it, we do it. We think it, we do it. And then we think about the consequences later. And what I'm trying to encourage students is to think about things ahead of time before you do it, kind of like a chess match. As you play chess, you need to think not just about the move you're going to make, but think about the next 3 moves you're going to make and try to base it on what you think they're going to do next. But most importantly, understanding what your moves can be and what your options are as you make the first move. I would encourage all students to learn how to play chess. I didn't know how to play chess till after I graduated from high school. I wish someone had told me how cool it was, because I would have been on a chess club. I'd have been the basketball team and the chess club, because I think it's just awesome. But the idea is making better choices and being self-controlled. Now, when I think about this idea, if you don't control yourself, someone will have to control you for you. I often talk to students about people in prison. Now, the people who are in prison, rightfully so. Let's say they committed a crime. And I know there's a lot of injustice we talk about, and some people shouldn't be there. But let's say for the people who aren't there and that should be there, it might be fair to say the majority of them at one point suffered with a lack of self-control. They were unable to control their own impulses, their own desires. Even when they knew they were illegal, they did not have the capacity or the willingness to control themselves. Therefore, someone is now controlling them. Someone tells them when to go to bed, where to eat, who they're going to bunk with, who they're going to be in a cell with. Someone else controlling them for them because they lacked that self-control. And I don't think we should be people like that. We should be people of self-control. And even better yet, people of spirit control, people who are controlled by the Spirit. But this verse talks about self-control. Now, I like this verse because it talks about the idea of a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. And I also use an illustration with students. Let's say you came home from school, students, and I talked to my kids about this, and you got to your house and there was no walls. Let's just pretend everything else was in place, but the walls were not there. What would happen to your stuff? They'd be like, it'd get wet. it would get stolen. I couldn't sleep at night because anybody come in and rob us or whatever they wanted to do to us because we had no protection. And so that is what this verse is kind of saying, because back in the Bible time, their cities had walls around them, like the city of Jericho. Jericho had these huge walls, and most cities did because that was their protection, right? That's how the enemy couldn't just come in the middle of the night and take their stuff. As a matter of fact, God had to instruct Joshua to walk around the wall several times, and God would miraculously tear the walls down. And then when he did, they came in and conquered the city of Jericho. But think about that. He says that if that city was left and it was left without walls, no walls around it, they wouldn't have any protection. So what I'm getting from this verse is that what can protect us from our enemies and even sometimes from ourselves is self-control. Being able to control your impulses so you don't do the things that you don't need to do, because you're giving your strength away to others when you actually give in to a lack of self-control. When you don't do what you need to do to protect yourself, someone will control you for you. Now that can happen in many different ways. And I think it's funny because as I think about our culture, right now, currently, we're dealing with the whole gun control issue because we're dealing with school shootings, and people are upset, and rightfully so, about some of the killings in our schools, and they should never happen. But if we look just at the guns, we will never get anywhere because the issue is deeper than the guns. The issue is the heart. And as long as we allow people to consume anything, and I think free speech is important, but if we let them consume anything and anything they want to in their private life, that's going to spill over into public life. I mean, if you're watching people get shot up from the time you're 4 years old to the time you're 18 years old, and you're seeing glorifying guns and glorifying people who can murder other people and kill other people and all this other abuse that we're watching continue, that's a lack of self-control. That stuff gets in your mind and you can act it out. I remember recently I saw a viral video about this guy who went on a rampage. He was stealing cars. He thought he was the real Grand Theft Auto, which is a popular video game. So he was going around jacking people out their cars, going on high-speed chases, grabbing other people. He wrecked a bunch of cars, went on this whole rampage for hours, and the police were trying to catch him. And he was playing the live video game. And I don't know for sure, but I imagine he had been playing that video game to the point where that became reality for him. We thought this was okay to do. My point in bringing that up is this, that I think some of that self-control starts with what we're allowing coming into our eye gates and our ear gates, what we consume. What we consume will one day consume us. So we have to be self-controlled, not just in what we do outwardly, but what we do privately. What we do privately in our own homes when no one else is looking is just as important as what we do outwardly, because what we do privately will come out one day. What we consume will one day consume us. And that can mean many different things for many different people. And no matter where you are, I think we have to be careful what we're allowing to into our minds and to our hearts, because that will start to break down our own ideas of what's right and wrong. But the bottom line is this from our verse today, and I kind of got off on some other things, but I think it's important that we learn to have some self-control, some of that impulse control. And I think one of the biggest things is, number one, what we allow to come in, what we consume, because what we consume one day consume us. But not only that, we need to learn something called delayed gratification, that you can't have everything you want when you want it. Delayed gratification is so important because this teaches you how you can't have everything you want. And sometimes I think we give our kids, and this is a whole nother subject, giving our kids too much where they become entitled and they expect things. And when they don't get it, they lose it. I do thechoiceparent.com is a website we're building. I've done some podcasts on that, and we talked about some parenting tips. And one of the parenting tips I get and that I'm doing with my own kids is teaching them how to receive a no. Because if they can't receive a no, they don't have the capacity to receive a yes. In the sense that if you always tell your kids yes on everything, they come and expect that yes. And when they don't get that yes, they lose their minds. So often when my kids ask me a question, can we have this, can we have that? My question to them is this: what are you going to say if I say no? What will be your response when I say no? And I'm teaching them they have to say, okay. And so I try not to ever say maybe or later, either a yes or no, because I don't want to leave kids in limbo, because I don't like to be left in limbo. But I don't like to say maybe, either yes or no, because I can always go back after I said no. So you know what? I changed my mind and say yes. But I never want to go back and say yes and then change my mind and say no, because that's not fair unless I have a really good reason for it. But my point is this: teaching our kids to have the ability to hear the word no is a great way to teach them to have self-control, because if you don't get some, it's not okay for you to blow up. Now, it's perfectly okay to be sad, to be disappointed, but you're not going to blow up at me because you didn't get what you wanted. You have to learn even that small little thing of self-control, because that small thing will grow into a life of having self-control. So again, our verse today is this: a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Make sure you have the walls of protection in your life that is called self-control. Because if you don't have self-control, anything and everything will happen in your life, unfortunately. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. I went over my time. I just get so excited to get into this. So I hope you're enjoying the series, and I hope you are sharing it with other people. Also, remember, you can check this out on the podcast. If you're listening by podcast, thank you. For watching video, thank you. Please like it, subscribe, share, give us a review, give some comments. I really, really appreciate it as we continue our journey. A few more days left of our series, Get Wisdom.